Karen Hartglass, and you are listening to It's All About Food. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. I've got a special guest. Everybody I talk to is special, and I'm often very excited to speak to the people that I bring on the show, but this might top them all. I have with me Gail Eisnitz, winner of the Albert Schweitzer Medal for Outstanding Achievement in Animal Welfare. Gail is the chief investigator for the Humane Farming Association. Her work has resulted in exposés by ABC's Good Morning America, Primetime Live, Dateline NBC, and her interviews have been heard on more than 1,600 radio stations. Her work has been featured in such newspapers as the New York Times, Washington Post, San Francisco Chronicle. Have you ever heard of these? Miami Herald, Detroit Free Press, Texas Monthly, Denver Business Journal, Los Angeles Times, and U.S. News and World Report. Gail's first book, Slaughterhouse, The Shocking Story of Greed, Neglect, and Inhumane Treatment Inside the U.S. Meat Industry, was published in 1997. And today we're going to highlight her newest book, Out of Sight: An Undercover Investigator's Fight for Animal Rights and Her Own Survival. Gail, I'm so happy to talk to you.
Thank you, Karen. I'm really excited about talking to you.
I love meeting people whose work I've supported, whose work I believe in, whose integrity is powerful and courageous. And you are definitely one of those people.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're a good one. And I'm surprised. Have we met?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I know we're Facebook friends, but what does that mean today? Anyway, I wish I had met you. I've known about you for a very long time. Well, since Slaughterhouse came out, actually, your first book. And I recently read your book, Out of Sight. And before we get to the animal rights portion of it and all the great work you did, your investigative reporting and that entire long, powerful history, I want to talk about you. And I want to start with Seeing Dots. Now, this show is called It's All About Food. I usually talk about food and all the impacts, politics, health, environment, animals, everything that's related to food. But you talk about your health journey in this book and Seeing Dots, and it resonated with me so powerfully that I want to just get to this right away. So you've had a big challenge in your life with your vision and other health issues. And you talked about Seeing Dots. And why I keep repeating this Seeing Dots thing is because although I have not experienced what you have experienced to the magnitude that you have, I see dots. And it's kind of like a coming out story, or we're at some sort of 12-step program. I see dots. And it's something that I don't talk about. It's not that I have any shame about it. It's just nobody talks about it. Fortunately for me, it has not been debilitating. But when I was very young, about 5 years old, just like you were, as you explain in your book, I said to my parents, I see dots. And they didn't know what that meant. I never did. Never really went anywhere. And a few years ago, my sister brought it up because she remembered. She was older. And she said, do you still see dots? And then I went online and I learned it was a thing. And it had a name, visual snow. And although the photo that they showed to describe what it was not exactly what I experienced, but it was very close. And I went, oh my God, it is a thing. So can we talk about the visual snow, seeing dots, and your experience with that?
Sure. Yeah, I was so happy to hear that you see dots.
Isn't that funny? We're not alone.
I know. Well, You know, visual snow syndrome was only recognized in the scientific literature 10 years ago. So if you had looked it up before then, you wouldn't have known anything about it. And I
Right.
was only diagnosed 3 years ago while I was writing Out of Sight. And yeah, it has not been an easy journey for me because it's pixelation, to make it clearer to people. It's like a George Seurat picture, painting. It's everything looks pixelated, and it has other associated symptoms with it. And you've been fortunate that you haven't had some of those, but some of them are really debilitating. And in my experience, it was not easy to negotiate that world of visual snow while I was doing my investigations. But
But somehow
some
you did.
I'm sorry.
Somehow you did.
Oh, somehow I did, but I kind of had to. I didn't see that I had any alternative. I knew what was going on with the animals, so I didn't have much of a choice.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know, Gail. I think there's something, you have a superpower. You clearly have a superpower. And just like I'm not into the Marvel universe and the DC universe. My partner Gary watches that stuff late at night when I'm sleeping. But um, what I understand about some of these characters is they've had a traumatic event happen to them, something that affects them physically. But from that comes their superpower.
Oh,
Eh,
well, I don't know. You just do what you have to do. And since I didn't know what was wrong with me for all those years, I saw dots, but I also had ringing in the ears, which is part of the syndrome, and derealization, which is really, really scary. You feel like you're in a dream, and that's very coincident with visual snow syndrome,
mm,
and that was the worst part of it. Um, but yeah, I managed because first of all, I didn't know what was wrong with me, and no doctor. I went to over 100 doctors, and they
yeah, they
just
think you're nuts, right?
I think you're nuts. Yeah. So I just had to keep putting one foot in front of the other, and continue investigating and documenting and exposing what was going on in slaughterhouses and factory farms because I thought it was my problem. I thought I was to blame for
Wow.
seeing dots because nobody else that I knew saw them. And now I
Right.
know another person.
Well, fortunately for me, I have not had the same debilitating experiences that you have. Who knows what's in for me in the future? But the way I dealt with it, I was kind of smug about it. And because I got into the semiconductor industry as an engineer and I learned about how integrated circuits work, this bit technology, 0, 1, on, off, and the way we reproduce circuitry was through different forms of uh, microelectronics and photolithography and lithography of different sorts. But then things got digitized and everything was pixelated. And then I thought, oh yeah, just like even the old fashioned televisions had those, what did they call them?
Static.
Everything was pixelated. And
Right.
I thought, that's how we see the world. Everyone sees the world pixelated, but I just happen to be someone who notices. I just thought I'm paying attention. And I would look up and see, like a blank ceiling, and I could see all the little lights and stuff. And I thought everybody must see this way. They just don't pay attention. Wrong. But
Wrong.
that's how I managed it. And I just
Yeah.
shut up about it because it wasn't a conversation anybody wanted to have.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, just to mention, so people don't think we're crazy, it is an overactive area in our visual cortex that doesn't allow us to filter out information that most people do filter out. So,
So there is something to that. where we're not filtering as much as maybe we should, and they call that an anomaly or something not right. But maybe it's a superpower.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, so anybody out there, if you see dots or if you think you do, just Google visual snow, see what that is. And if you want to chat about it, we're here. You can always send me an email at info@realmeals.org and we'll get that conversation going. You've found communities for visual snow.
Well, not particularly. The only community that I found was a Facebook page, which I'm glad that I didn't know about before I had a diagnosis, because the people on that page are really suffering.
Ah,
And it would have made me even
scared.
more scared than I was.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I wish them all well. And
Right.
I I don't know where to go with that. But if you do have any form of visual snow, you're not alone. That's all I can say. And
Right.
here is one example, Gail Eisnitz, who has done amazing work in spite of or along with her challenges.
Well,
So
thank
thank you
you.
for that. And there were different medical professionals who implied from time to time that some of your challenges could have been linked to the stress, the trauma that you were experiencing in your investigative reporting.
Yeah, I'm sure that stress didn't help. There were times when it was really unmanageable. Um, Stress brought on all sorts of things in my life and career. In addition to visual snow, I was so stressed out at one point when all these hogs were being immersed into the scalding tank alive and nobody was doing anything about it. And I had a boss that would not let me expose it because he was not a healthy person. He's in jail now for life.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll get back to that one. Yeah.
yeah, right. But I was so stressed out. I said, I was 35 and I said, I'm so stressed out. It will be amazing if I don't get breast cancer. And lo and behold, 6 months later, I had it.
Yeah, your
So,
body knew.
yeah, yeah, your body can do interesting things.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
body knew at that point that you already had breast cancer when you wrote it.
Oh,
Yeah. Your
right.
body knows a lot of things. And just like filtering out with our seeing dots and not filtering out enough, our bodies know a lot of things. We just don't know how to communicate with our bodies effectively. And people are starting to develop tools to that. That's not what this program is about today. But I know that I have used some of them in my own cancer journey, which were profound and powerful, talking to our bodies, talking to the memory in our bodies. It's really a fascinating subject that will probably get more and more
Wow.
developed over time. Yeah, it's a wow. But this is all about you, Gail. And you are clearly a kind and loving and generous, caring person. And what is amazing is the numbness you describe when you were in all of these incredibly horrific situations, seeing the cruelty done to so many different animals used for food. And can we go into that a little, this way that you managed? Can you explain it? Do you know where it came from? Do you still experience things that way?
Um, I can just say that I think it started in my childhood when my parents had a really bad marriage and I was sort of felt like I was in the middle of it and I was pretty enmeshed in the whole situation and I think I just shut down and it made it easier for me to do the work that I had to do. But I'm still somewhat numb, but I'm thawing. I'm starting to thaw. So that's a really great thing.
Yeah, I love that word. You're thawing.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get back to your superpower because here was a traumatic event, traumatic to you as a young child. And as a result, it made you not feel your feelings. I'm sure that had some impact on your health because we know it does. But it also enabled you to see what no one wants to see. See it, witness it, which is such a key word, and write it so that we can all witness it. And I know many people, sometimes myself included, who say, I don't want to see those videos of the animals being tortured. I can't see them. I don't want to see them. But your words, without the visual, enable us to see and feel so powerfully. There are so many experiences in the book. I was even going to ask you if you would want to read a section of them, but they're all so, so powerful
Oh, thank you.
without pictures.
Yes, we decided not to include pictures because we didn't want to upset people. And the book is written sort of as a mystery. It's a detective story trying to figure out what is wrong with me. And it's written that way. It's a memoir. It's written that way on purpose so that people can want to read it and not want to put it down when the graphic things come up. Um, People say it's a page turner and they can't put it down, and that makes me really, really happy because that was very intentional.
Yeah, it is a page turner. One of the things I liked, I don't know how intentional this was, but there are many chapters and they're all short. And I love that. Sometimes I'm reading the book on the subway. I don't have a lot of time. And it's just nice. Oh, that chapter's done. I can move on. But I want to get back to it really soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm glad it worked out that way. That was not intentional.
Okay. Great. Well, I have to admit that I did cry a lot. So without pictures, I was extremely moved. And one of the things that made it especially powerful, well, maybe two things, is that I don't know how much we've improved in terms of our treatment of animals that are raised and slaughtered for food. And the other part is how much corruption is in our government, has been in our government for so long, and is now just so visually apparent. It's not covert anymore. It's just right in front of us, and it's happening like every other second. And both of these things are so apparent in your book.
Right,
They're
right.
very current.
Well, my supervisor, the founder of Humane Farming Association, he always reminds me to talk about our successes because there's things are so bad in the farm animal business that it's important to remember that we do have successes, but things to me seem like they are getting worse. But I can share some of our successes with you if you want to hear them.
I love success stories. Please.
Okay, well, Humane Farming Association's national veal boycott, which we started when veal was a rising and upcoming industry. Most people know that veal calves have historically been kept in tiny crates and can't turn around for 4 to 5 months. That national veal boycott has seen veal production decline about 85%. So that's fantastic. So that's one of our successes. Another success was when I implored, pleaded with a reporter from the Washington Post to do a story on slaughterhouse violations, and he used quite a bit of my findings and did a front page story in the Washington Post on slaughterhouse violations, and it shook Congress to the core, and it made them fund the Humane Methods of Slaughter Act for the first time in 43 years. It had been on the books for 43 years without a dime of funding for enforcement. So that was a success. Another success is HFA shut down what was going to be the third largest hog factory in the world. It was sited on tribal lands on the Rosebud Sioux Reservation in South Dakota. And so that was a big success. And then another success, and then I'll get to the bad stuff. But another success was when HBO ran an hour-and-a-half documentary 19 times in 1 month, and it's still available online, on an operation where we found that the producer was taking his old mother mother pigs, who were no longer productive or who were injured or wounded or something, and kicking them out the door of the barn off a 4-foot ledge onto a pile in the freezing cold, and onto a pile of other dead and dying hogs, and put a chain around their necks and attached the other end of the chain to a front end loader and lifted the tines of the front end loader and watched as the sows slowly, after 5 minutes, suffocated under the weight of their own bodies. And that was really a wonderful opportunity to get the public to see what goes on behind the closed doors of factory farms, because HBO, as I said, did an incredible documentary on that. It's called
What was that called?
Death on a Factory Farm. Yeah.
Death on the Factory Farm. Yeah, you describe some of that in your book. It's profound what humans will do to non-human animals and also to other humans.
Exactly.
And I often say on this show, I have no idea how anyone else thinks. I only know what goes on in my own head. Just like I have no idea how anyone else sees things. Like I see dots. I thought everyone did, but I guess not. I just don't understand how anyone can do this. I can slightly understand how some people that are in extreme poverty, maybe they came into this country illegally and they needed work and they want to raise their families and they end up working in one of these hellholes, these slaughterhouses, and they're afraid for their lives, and so they follow the rules, or they disobey the rules because the rules aren't protected, the rules aren't inspected, and who's ever in charge is saying, just get this done and do it however, and all these horrible things happen.
Well, some of the individuals who work in these slaughter plants, it was like the floodgates opened when I talked to them. They were so happy to be able to talk about the violations they were engaging in. I mean, they were so relieved that somebody would listen to them, because their supervisors would say, skin that animal alive, hold it so that you can do the job, but do not stop the line. And nobody would listen to them. So they were just so relieved and happy to be able to discuss what they were engaging in. And I spoke with people who had spent, this was on the Slaughterhouse book, about 3 million, combined total of about 3 million hours on the kill floor. And every one of them told me without exception that they had either engaged in or observed animals being strangled, beaten, boiled, skinned, or dismembered, all while fully conscious. So these
And that's
people,
not legal.
no. there's a thing called the Federal Humane Methods of Slaughter Act. And that was passed 67 years ago, and it requires that animals be humanely handled and rendered unconscious before they're bled and butchered.
You go into this a lot in your book, and maybe we could go into it a little bit. But there is a law. You just recited what it was, how when it came out, and how in many instances it's ignored.
Right. I think that things may be a slight amount better than
Slightly
they
better. Yeah.
slightly better only because of the Washington Post story, which resulted in funding of enforcing the Humane Methods of Slaughter Act. So they might be slightly better, but one thing that's worth noting is that less than 3% of the federal meat inspection budget goes to humane slaughter enforcement. Here the animals are fueling the entire system, and less than 3% goes to enforcing the Humane Methods of Slaughter Act. And that's because they give what they call verification procedures to meat inspectors to go and see what's going on in the stunning area of the plant. And I call them spot checks. And in my opinion, and other people's opinions, you need full-time inspection in the areas of the plants where the animals are being killed. You don't just show up, because when you show up, everything changes. The workers have code words and radios and whistles to let somebody know that the inspector's coming, slow the line down, and stop skinning animals alive. So I don't have a lot of faith in verification procedures, and less than 3% of the meat inspection budget to protect those beings that are fueling the entire system is just not acceptable.
Well, we know that there's a lot of corruption, and it's all for the mighty dollar, because the people in charge want to cut costs, they want to make money. And I don't know if they've had traumatic experiences in their lives and they're numb in a different way, but I don't know how they can allow what's happening. And we're not, unfortunately, it's not just with non-human animals. And we know this. There are many studies that show that when children abuse animals as a child, there's a higher possibility of them abusing people in their adulthood. And we're now experiencing fascism in this country. I like to say that, authoritarianism. And we have this horrific detention center, which is a concentration camp called Alligator Alcatraz. And we have representatives now reporting, and they acknowledge just what you said, only it's a different scenario, that when the people know you're coming to inspect, they're going to make it look as good as they can. And the representatives have noted this, that they know that they cleaned up the facilities and made them look better, but even still, they can see the horror. They can see the heat and the unsanitary conditions, and just how horrific the whole thing is. And yet there are humans that support this and allow this. And it's not just for non-human animals, it's for humans as well. So when people talk about us animal rights people, oh, you care about animals, what about people? It's the same.
Yeah. I read a lot of Holocaust memoirs for that very reason, just to remind myself that now I can understand how we can do what we do to animals if we did what we did to people and continue to do to people.
Well, I often used to say, how did the Holocaust happen? You read history and explains different things, but you never really could understand, but how did the people let it happen? And now we're living it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back to your book, Out of Sight, an undercover investigator's fight for animal rights and her own survival. So you did amazing investigative work through many challenges. You documented, you transcribed, you took recordings and had to transcribe them. You know, nowadays so much of this is automated, but you had to listen and transcribe yourself, which takes hours. And you put all of this down on paper, and then somehow, in some rare instances, you managed to bring the light to court. And this is again where you talked about these pigs being thrown over and hung and just tortured so that they would die. There were people that actually said, no, they weren't suffering.
Yeah, there was a paid veterinarian. He was a paid expert to say that that's not suffering. We watched it on the screen as the animal thrashed and struggled as it was hanging from the fork of the front end loader. And he said, in my opinion, that's not suffering. People will do anything for money.
Yeah, that's not suffering. You can see it in the film in front of you. You can hear their screams and cries. Oh, but they're not feeling anything.
It's not unlike what's considered standard agricultural practice in this country for agricultural um, things like gestation crates. Are you familiar with gestation
Oh,
crates?
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, there you have a 400 to 600 pound mother pig in a crate that's 19 inches wide and can never turn around. And the things that she suffers, she goes crazy. She engages in stereotypic behavior, head bobbing and air chewing and bar biting until her mouth bleeds. Um, and they get, I won't get into too much detail, but I'll just give you a taste of it. Although,
Yes, please.
okay. They're standing above their own waste, the waste pit, and they get respiratory problems from inhaling the terrible air. They get foot problems and arthritis. They collapse in their crates and they starve to death because they can't reach the food trough. They're dragged out by their snouts and their ears and their legs and put on piles. And if they're lucky, they get shot. But I mean, that's standard agricultural practice. And that's, well, another standard agricultural practice. These are the simple things in the book. The book gets into things that are not standard agricultural practices, but thumping of piglets that are runts. They don't make weight, they're sick, or they're just runts. The the workers grab the piglets by their hind legs, whirl them over their shoulders, and smash them headfirst to the concrete floor. And they don't necessarily die on the first smash. And it's called thumping, or it's also called packing. That's the industry acronym for pound against concrete. These things are American Veterinary Medical Association approved. These types of terrible things. I mean, that's because the American Veterinary Medical Association is in bed with the meat industry. I mean, the killing of 175 million poultry from avian influenza, the culling of them. The way they do that, ventilation shutdown plus, is they do exactly what the title says. They shut down the ventilation, they seal up the barns, they pump in heat or steam, and they let the animals
Cook
bake to death. Yeah.
alive.
And they do that with pigs too. They did that with 1 million pigs during the COVID pandemic.
And it can take days.
It can. And if they're not dead the next morning, then they come through with a captive bolt gun with the pigs and knock them in the head. And this is AVMA approved.
Yes, this is approved. Now, if we did anything like thumping to a dog or a cat, people would be arrested.
Absolutely.
And we know that pigs are smarter.
Right.
So we know that they must feel.
Yeah.
We are one sick species, are we not? Well, we need to know what's happening, and that's why this work and your book is so important. And when people learn about these things, how do they feel?
I mean, they're outraged, and I have to be careful. I walk such a fine line because I don't want people to think that the book is a litany of horrors, because it's not. Um, I want them to find it very readable, a very readable book.
Well,
And
there are some beautiful moments you talk about with the people that you talk with and the experiences you share and how people love and support each other in difficult situations. There is a lot of beauty in the book.
yeah, yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Because I personally feel that love is the only answer. And that's a continuing thread throughout the book.
Oh, good. Thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, people are shocked to know that line speeds, I'll give you a little bit of information about line speeds in slaughterhouses.
Mm.
It used to be that you could kill 1,106 hogs per line per hour. That's one hog every 3 seconds. Well, with the new administration, they just lifted that because that wasn't fast enough. And with poultry broilers, this one is an interesting tidbit. It used to be 140 birds were eviscerated per minute. And now it's 175 birds per minute. That's 3 birds per second.
How do they do that? How do they physically do that?
Well, it takes a lot of work, and they have several people on the line, but it's extremely grueling work. And it's not surprising that 55 years ago, we killed 10 billion animals in the world each year. And now we kill about 10 billion animals a year in the United States alone, with 82 billion animals killed a year for food, not
Yeah.
including fish.
Right. And as we know, I've been talking about this since I started this program 2009, and we've known this for many, 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 many decades. It is takes a tremendous toll to raise animals to feed humans on this planet. We're seeing the impact in air pollution, soil degradation, loss of biodiversity, global warming. We also have an increase in chronic diseases that are preventable and reversible because we're eating a tremendous amount of animal protein, which is not a healthy protein. And I also think it's taking a tremendous psychological toll. I More and more people talk about the anxiety that they have, the emotional issues they have, and part of it could be that we're in a society now that talks about things, so we hear more about it. But I also think that it's on an increase because many people consume the anxiety, they consume the emotional agony in the chemicals in the animals. So it's
Right,
taking a tremendous toll.
right.
Mm,
It really is.
it really is. But meanwhile, we have solutions. I want to know, so you're still with the Humane Farming
Association.
Association, HFA.
Right.
And what are you doing today?
Oh, we've got interesting cases. Just I'm just involved in all sorts of things that have to do with uh, particularly a particularly interesting case came up where a producer, a corporation that had 1.6 million broiler chickens decided to go out of business and just left 1.6 million chickens to starve to death
Mm.
because the contract growers couldn't afford to feed them because the feed is provided by the corporation. So we're taking legal action against that company to hold it accountable because, everybody was upset that it had loans from USDA and lost money, but nobody was thinking about the birds that starved to death. I mean, some of them starved to death, some of them were given away. It was like a circus. They couldn't get rid of them. They were giving them away. There were lines of cars and vans lined up to pick up these birds that people didn't know what to do with. And some of the birds were subjected to ventilation shutdown, I believe, depopulated. It was just a big horror show. But you can't just decide to go out of business and stop feeding 1.6 million birds. So that's one of the bigger cases I've been working on.
Thank you. You earlier, when you were mentioning accomplishments, you mentioned the veal industry. And I remember when that first came about, and many people today, when I drop the word that I'm a vegan, and most people know I'm such a loud out vegan, but they always feel like they have to confess somehow and say, oh, I eat very little meat, or I, whatever. I'm like, okay, sure, you don't have to confess to me, but it happens all the time. But many people say, I don't eat veal. And that was something that really got through. And I wonder, what was it? What was that successful formula? Was it just because it was in the early days and people just didn't know about the animal industry and that was something that triggered something? But what was it? Because we need to do more of those.
Yeah, yeah, it was really successful. Humane Farming Association put a lot of resources into running ads, full page ads in national newspapers and Time and Newsweek and all those places of calves, of a calf in a tiny crate, completely taking up the whole crate. And I have a friend who saw that ad and it like changed her life. This was many years ago that she saw it, and she's been a vegan ever since. But those pictures really affected people. People don't realize that's the same thing for mother pigs, sows that are in crates for years. But we're working on that. I mean,
Yeah, there are a number of states that have banned gestation crates.
yeah, that's true. I think there are 9 or 10.
Yeah.
But still, I think it's like at least 60% of breeding sows are in gestation crates in this country. Yeah,
People got to have their bacon.
yeah.
Love my bacon. Uh-huh.
So sad.
It's an incredible disconnect. Okay, I had mentioned earlier that there's this connection between animal abusers as children who ultimately abuse adults later on. And I wanted to talk about, you included a story and you briefly touched on it before. You had a boss who sounded like a nightmare boss, and you were working for an animal protection agency. You were doing investigative work.
For the biggest one in the country.
And this guy was terrible to you. And then later on, after you left the company, you found out that he had been convicted and imprisoned for sex trafficking for life.
Right.
I mean, that must have been in some ways a gratifying story, but what a terrible story.
Well, it wasn't so much that he was bad to me. He wasn't very friendly to me. He knew that I didn't care for him. But what was bad was that he would not let me expose my slaughterhouse findings. So here I am knowing that animals are being skinned alive and boiled alive at certain plants, and he would not let me do anything about it. So that's why I had to quit. And then, yes, later I found out that he was molesting a girl from age 8 to 11, I think. I'm not quite sure about that. 8 to 10 or 8 to 11, with the permission of her mother, giving her gifts, and now he's in prison for life.
It's just a mind-boggling story because I don't know about anybody else, but when I think about people who work for organizations like that, who want a job because they care about animals and want to do something good, end up exploiting secretly uh, a young child. It's just mind-boggling. Did this guy really care about animals?
No,
There we have it.
in my opinion, no, he didn't.
Yeah. How did he get into the business? What, maybe he enjoyed knowing some of that suffering somehow?
I don't know. It could be. I don't know how he got into the business. I know he was charged and convicted in one case of embezzling um, from the organizations themselves. And maybe it was just a power trip or something. I'm not sure. But
Well, that's an
um,
important thing that you bring up, the power thing, because right now we're going through something in the political world. A lot of people are talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the work that he did and exploiting children, and how he's no longer with us. And the question is, did he kill himself or was he killed? And it's in this moment a trending topic, but there were a lot of people involved with him and have a lot of power. And there's definitely this connection with enjoying the power and using it to exploit.
right,
And it can be
right,
exploiting non-human animals, and it can be exploiting human children.
right, exactly.
People get off on power.
Yeah,
Whoa. And we've seen it too when the Me Too movement came out, how there were a number of leaders of animal rights organizations that were kind of accused of sexual harassment and some sort of misogyny.
right, exactly. Yeah.
We're an interesting species, are we not, Gail?
Oh my goodness. Too interesting.
I want to know, Gail, what brings you joy?
Oh my gosh. My kitty brings me joy. And just, I find joy in every moment. I'm such a content person. I really do. I just find joy in every moment. I just think that, I don't know how to put it, just there's beauty in everything. I try to have a lot of gratitude, live in gratitude. I try to.
It's incredible to hear you say these things, and I don't know how many people are listening or really listening, because there's there's a secret to life in what you just said, and we all need to pay attention to that, because there's a lot of horror in the world. And yeah, I've been talking about it on this program. It's all about food since 2009. A lot of people talk about it, a lot of people write books about it, but at the same time, we have to acknowledge the beauty, and we have to find a way to see it and experience it, because there's no other way to make things better.
Right. I mean, I certainly can't say I was always this way. And my diagnosis of visual snow syndrome 3 years ago changed a lot for me, because until then, I just basically thought I had a serious, I didn't know what was wrong with me.
And you
And
blamed
nobody,
yourself in some ways.
yes, I blame myself. Now that I know, I I think I put it in the book this way. Now I know what's wrong with me. I know what's right with me, and I feel so good about things. It makes a big difference.
Wow.
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if you realize these little pearls that you're throwing out, vegan pearls, of course, uh, little gems of wisdom.
Mhm.
But it's a simple shift where we can become profoundly depressed or profoundly content. It's just a little thing. And for you, I mean, maybe it wasn't a little thing, it was a big thing, but it was simple. A name, an acknowledgement that you knew it wasn't you, it was something human.
Human.
It was something human and normal because you're not the only one.
Right. And then I meet you.
I see dots. I also wanted to mention on the seeing dots spectrum, I had mentioned it to you when we wrote, but last year I experienced 2 days in a row, 2 events of scintillating scotoma, which thankfully to Googling, I learned what it was and learned that it's considered a migraine, although I didn't have any pain in my head. But I'm thinking maybe that was related to my seeing dots. Unfortunately, I haven't had any more experiences like that, but I was under a lot of stress. Scintillating scotoma, which is a visual experience. For me, it only lasted like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw this arc, this rainbow of color.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it in both eyes. I saw it with my eyes closed. And it was in the side field of vision. And it was really quite lovely. And it looked somewhat like a graphic cartoon. The images were very geometric. It was just fascinating and scary because I was in a musical at the time. I was singing in A Little Night Music, a Stephen Sondheim musical, and the first time it happened, I was off stage. The second time it happened, I was on stage.
Oh
And I'm like,
no.
okay, just say your lines. It's cool. And fortunately, nothing really became of it. And I ended up seeing a specialist who told me, if it ever happens again, let me know. But he assured me that it was nothing serious. It's fascinating that our brains work the way they do
You're not
and that
kidding.
we're able to accomplish hundreds of thousands of events without us consciously controlling them and making our bodies do what they do for as long as they do. It's just amazing. And occasionally, okay, things go out of whack sometimes.
Yeah. As long as it's just a little migraine, it, it's fine.
The thing that is very meaningful to me is food. And of course, we've been talking about the slaughtering of animals for food, so it's definitely related to food. But I always like to bring it back to the luscious, delicious foods made from plants that nature has provided for us that are good for us. And when we grow them organically and sustainably, they enrich the environment. They don't harm the environment. We have the answers. We can connect the dots to all the problems on Earth, and we have the solution, which is healthy, delicious plant food.
Right.
Yeah. So what is it what do you have some favorite foods or favorite places you like to go for wonderful vegan food?
Um, uh,
Or do you keep it simple?
I keep it pretty simple. I eat a lot of things like chili and hummus and things like that. I'm not a very complicated eater.
Hey, it's the
So
simple foods that are really the best foods for us.
yeah, yeah. Um, one
Absolutely.
one thing I wanted to mention, do I have time?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Is there is uh a program that we're trying to get people to write to Congress about. It's called the Livestock Indemnity Program. And we're trying to get it reformed because it reimburses farmers 75% of the animal's market value when they die from exposure to the weather, which is
Oh,
ridiculous. It
absolutely.
gives producers no incentive whatsoever to protect their animals from harsh environments. And they don't provide shelter or shade, and
And it's only going to get worse.
yeah, right. It's getting worse rapidly.
Okay, so you can give me a link and I'll share that with this podcast.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
important. We all need to know that there are things that we can do, and there are things that we can do.
Yeah, we're just asking that producers be required to have disaster preparedness plans instead of just letting their animals just die. I mean, the USDA has paid out $500 million for millions of dead livestock and poultry in the last several years.
That sounds like tremendous waste, government waste that we're trying
Yes,
to cut.
it totally is.
Yeah, but the lobbyists are powerful people, and they'll do their very best not to make changes in the animal industry.
Right.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, and we'll work on sharing that. Gail, it was such a delight to meet you and chat with you and share some of your stories. I encourage people to read Out of Sight: An Undercover Investigator's Fight for Animal Rights and Her Own Survival. It's a powerful and lovely book.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you. And I wish you wellness.
You too.
Yeah, I wish that for everyone. Everybody, thank you for joining me today on It's All About Food, and have a delicious week.